Hey Bill, what you got cooking for dinner tonight? Beans aplenty and all the biscuits you care to eat. That's what I'd hear every night. I was 14, and I was billed as the assistant cook on a cattle drive. We're coming up from Texas, heading up to Abilene, Kansas to the railhead up there. Now I was getting paid $10 a month. See, I was working for my Uncle Bill. He was the head cook. We kept that Uncle part kind of quiet to justify that money I was making. He was making $60 a month, second highest paid man on the drive. That was a lot of money for 1869. And it was kind of fun. Been on the drive for a couple weeks. It had settled down to a dull routine. That's said with jest, because when you have a few thousand head of cattle and 12 cowboys and another 100 head of horses for the cowboys, because they're switching horses every few hours, there's never a dull moment. Something's happening. But I remember on this one morning, we were ready to go. Early. Bill was packed up and everything. He said, we got to stay until the scout leaves, because it's kind of cloudy and foggy out. We always would set our wagon tongue lined up to the North Star at night. So when the scout took off in the morning, if it was cloudy or dark, he could get his bearings. Wagon tongue north. Scout came by and took off. We were passing out food. I think we were the first drive-in restaurant, really. Because the guys would come by and we'd give them a biscuit with some kind of meat or something to put in between it, wrap it up in some old newspapers, and they'd put it in their saddlebags and take off for the drive for the day. We generally didn't hurry up. We had lots of time, because when they get the cattle up and moving, they'd let them spread out real wide across the prairie for the first couple hours, get a little grazing in. Then they'd start rounding them up and moving them at a faster speed. So we got past them while they were spread out. You don't want to be behind them when they're in that nice tight trailer. You're going to eat dust all day. We're going along. I'm in the back of the wagon doing what I do. Taking dried beans, putting them in a pot of water to soak up so they're ready for cooking at night. Peeling potatoes and cutting them up to put in a pot for cooking. Making up some mashed potatoes. And making biscuits. You ever try and make biscuits on a bouncing buckboard wagon on a hot afternoon and have them rise? I don't know how he did it. I had all these little cups that I measured all these ingredients with. And it was Biscuit Bill. That was his nickname. He picked that up when he was working for Charles Goodnight on one of Charles Goodnight's early rides when he invented the chuck wagon. So I'm doing the biscuit thing, and I'm mixing them and stirring them and cutting them out with a tin cup and laying them on this damp cloth and covering them over on a box back there. And I'm generally done after a couple hours. I'm sitting in the back of the wagon, my feet hanging off, we're rolling along. I'm waiting. We're in the prairie. And I know Bill's going to holler wood. Now, when we're rolling along, we're doing 3 miles an hour. We're really trucking. So I jump off the back of the wagon when Bill yelled wood, and I'd run up and see his point, because he was up high on that high seat. Because wood was scarce. You had to start grabbing it and collecting it as you were out on the prairie. And on some days, if I hadn't heard wood for a long time, I know what I'd be hearing. Pies. He'd point out a dried cow pie, and I'd run over and pick that sucker up and put it in the back. They didn't burn as hot as wood, but they gave a smooth, even heat. And always added an interesting flavor to the food. No wood, no pies, we're rolling along. All of a sudden the wheels got quiet. I looked down, we're on grass. Real green grass, not that gravelly prairie stuff with the little brush and everything. We pulled in, I jumped out and ran up front. I'm looking, there's a row of trees standing there, right along a little stream. The scout's bandana's tied on a branch. We know we're stopping here tonight. We unhooked the horses, grabbed a couple of them, got a line around one of the dead standing trees. Should I I say rope. Well, anyway, we got around a dead standing tree and pulled that sucker down, got it back to camp. We're cutting it up with our axes and our saw. We had 2 fires going, the bean pot cooking here, the potatoes over there. We knew we were going to have a whole lot of hot coals because there was this cast iron oven in the back of that thing. We had to drag out and put coals in to cook those biscuits. There's a stream running right past the trees. It has a stark bend. I think that's what gave us our big green field. At the snow melt, the river would overflow at that bend and flood this field, so it was full of grass. I'm looking at that clear, cool water. I look at Bill. I look at the water. I look at Bill. I said, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. It's been 2 weeks since we got enough water to wet more than our face. Let's go. We kicked off our boots and we jumped into that stream. It was cold. It was crystal clear coming towards us, but as it went by, it was brown and muddy. We were washing around all our clothes, working all that trail dust and mud off, just having a grand time. I'm looking, there's a tree up there. I'm looking at that tree going, it might be fun to jump off that tree. Bill, I think I'm clean enough. I'm going to hang my clothes on the branch here and just swim in my long johns for a while. So Bill does the same. We got our clothes on some bushes. I'm still looking at that tree. Bill, I'm going to jump off that sucker. I go running up. Sorry. I go running up on top, and I look down. Bill, is it deep enough? I see his large, ample backside go down. He pops back up. Says, plenty deep. I'm right behind you. I leapt off that tree and screamed all the way down, hit that water with a splash. Boy, that was fun. I'm drifting backwards, and I see Bill jumping off the tree. When he hit the water, it wasn't just a splash. It was serious water movement. He hit the water. You know that little thing when you drop something in the water where it comes back together in the middle and goes up? That went all the way up to the tree branch he jumped from. Waves were on the shore. He's drifting back. Let's do that again. We both climb up the tree. We're sitting side by side, ready to jump. Heard a buzzing noise. It's a big knothole. Bees were coming in and out of it right behind us. Evidently, we'd agitated their existence by climbing on their tree. We both leapt off and screamed in an off-key duo all the way down. We hit the water. Hey. You know what's in a beehive? Yes, I do, Bill. Hey, you know what that does if you put a little bit of baked beans? Yes, I do, Bill. Hey, you know what that's like in fresh biscuits? Yes, Bill, I do. We drifted down the river. We got back up to where our clothes were hanging on the bushes. I brought them over and hung them near the fire to finish drying. He's in the chuck wagon rummaging around. I don't know what he's getting. He comes out with this big old flour sack and a big pot and this little tiny oilcloth bag. So I got the flour sack, I'm holding the pot, he's got the little bag. We go down to the river, he sets that little bag down, hands me the sack, takes the pot, and says, okay, I've got a plan. I didn't know what the plan was, but we were standing waist deep at the base of that leaning tree. He opens up that little oilcloth bag, stick of dynamite. He wedges that in the roots on that tree, gets a match out, gets a second match out, won't waste your, gets him going, lights that, and yells, run! And we did, we got behind this big boulder. It was an explosion. The water on the surface of that river was dancing in little waves all across the water. The ground was shaking. The tree was doing what trees do when they fall down, making that cracking noise. It fell. It hit the other side of the bank. It split right where that knothole full of bees was. And you could see this thick amber liquid just flowing out of that tree into the river. You could also see fish floating. They were stunned, drifting down towards us from the blast. Bill grabbed that pot. He was running out there. He got his toes anchored in the sand, wiggled himself down so just his nose was sticking out because there were some agitated bees in the area. Had that pot resting on his belly. It was big enough to hold a good-sized pot. And he's catching that honey coming out of the tree. He turns around, pops his head up, get that sack and get those fish. So I'm picking up fish and putting them in that flour sack. Those fish are all really slimy. Not fish slime, honey slime from the honey in the water. They're just dripping. Put it in a sack and it's oozing out, streaming honey. I'm going around, I'm picking up the last fish floating by. I got a good sized bag of fish here. Feel the ground vibrating. Bill, herd's coming in. He let go with his toes. We go drifting down and get up the side of the stream, and I'm just going over the top of the bank when I hear, "Woo! Hey Bill, what you got for dinner tonight?" And instead of the normal answer, beans aplenty and all the biscuits you care to eat, Bill looks over at me and points. "Well, beans aplenty, biscuits, and honey glazed fish." That's as true as it gets. Thank you.